out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You are tuned into the Apartment 5B meets the Man Knows Hip Hop podcast. Little sis co-host Porsche, what's good, baby?
I'm good, Kill. How are you?
Me and Porsche was arguing behind the scenes,
and you know what?
She wasn't able to shift that quickly back into
It's so good to see Easton, and this is the first time I'm seeing Slack face to face.
It's the first time I'm seeing Slack face to face.
This is a brilliant collaboration. I love it. So good to be here with these guys and you, of course, Kill. So thank you.
No doubt. Easton Slack tells all about Man Knows Hip Hop. Everything, good brothers.
Yeah, man.
Easton, my brother.
All right, man. Appreciate the invitation as always, man.
This ain't an invitation. This is a collabo. This ain't even no invitation.
That's right, man.
This a collabo joint.
My bad. Yeah, so now I'm looking forward to this. As you know, us we chop it up all the time, man. So we wanted to do this for a while. But yeah, so me and Slack's been doing Man Knows Hip Hop starting last year. We've only been going a few months, but we're really excited about the feedback we're getting. People are enjoying it, having fun with the topics. And yeah, we're enjoying it, man. We're doing our thing every week. We drop an episode. Had a little break at the moment just because of Christmas and everything like that. But we'll be back with you from next week and everything. Yeah, man. I don't know what to say, man. It's good. Hit us up, Man Knows Hip Hop on Twitter. My own Twitter, Slack's Twitter. Who obviously can introduce his own stuff and that. Yeah, we're just doing it, man. We're having fun, following your blueprint and your lead, you guys. But yeah, man, having a good time, man. Having a good time.
No doubt, Slack over here looking like PMD. When I came on, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Man, everything. I mean, Slack, tell us all about everything, good brother. How Man Knows Hip Hop get started, man.
Yeah, man. So I was approached on Twitter, funny enough, by a dude who said, I really like your tweets. You seem to know your stuff. You got a vibe. He said, I'm doing a football podcast, but I want to do like a hip hop one as well. But I want you to look after that. So I was kind of like, there's a million podcasts out there. I'm not really sure if I want to put my foot in that water as well. But he convinced me. He said, man, look, it would be good. And, he gave us all these great ideas. And I said, let me hit up Easton and see what he thinks about it. And Easton was like, bro, I was literally just thinking about doing a podcast as well. I was going to ask you if you wanted to do one. So I was like, well, the timing's probably really good then. You know what I mean? If Easton was thinking about it, this dude's hit me up. It all kind of met in the middle. So I said, okay, let's go for it. So this dude was supposed to give us like intros and outros and music and links to interviews and all of this good stuff. So me and Easton said, look, man, we'll just run with it and we'll wait for this dude to get everything in gear. So we just started dropping some episodes, man, and people were just riding with us and enjoying the topics and enjoying the camaraderie. So we just kept on running with it. To be honest, we had no expectations at all. So just seeing the amount of views we get, the amount of followers we found, and the interactions have been brilliant. Like, we've had such good feedback. So we just kept running with it, and we're just going to look to elevate it this year and just make things better and better, man. That's what we're going to try and do.
That's so dope, bro. And I love to see it. You two dudes are some of my favorite followers on Twitter. I mean, followers on Twitter, just based off of y'all always got a dope conversation on tap. Like, I don't know how y'all come. People like, how you come up with the topics? I'm like, I'm gonna start some shit on Twitter, and the topic will come to me. But y'all two stay with a dope topic, like in pocket at all times. Tonight's topic is actually Easton's topic. So Easton, why don't you tell us where this even came from and what we chopping it up about tonight?
Yeah, man. So what I like to do every now and then, I like to just pick an artist and just go through their whole catalogue every few years or so. Even if I already know the catalogue, it's like to revisit it. So I was just sitting down one day, man, listening to Ghostface and just going through his catalogue, which, as we know, is a top tier catalogue, but it's a meaty catalogue. There's a lot to it. So I thought to myself, if I had to pick my favourite and my least favourite projects from Ghostface, what would it be? Obviously I won't say what it is because we're going to get into that in the topic, but that's how it started rolling with really, and I started thinking that's interesting. So I put it to the timeline and just thought pick one of your favorite artists, look at your favorite project from them and your least favorite project from them. That's how the idea came about, really. So there's some interesting responses and feedback in there and what people thought. So yeah, man, that's what we was talking about today.
That's what we talked about. I hit up Easton and was like, yo, let's try to do, our favorite MCs. I know for me, I'm doing my 6 to 10 on my GOAT list MC. Just saying 6 to 10 because I know most people usually have the top 5 is kind of the same or whatever like that. So that's what we're going to be chopping it up about today. Porsche, ladies first as always. Who is one of the MCs that you picked and how did you do it? Are these your favorite MCs? Is this your 6 to 10, your 1 to 5, or how did you do it?
Yeah, I talk about my 1 to 5 all the time, whether that's on other Apartment 5B episodes or people are just hitting me up on the timeline. It's always 1 to 5, 1 to 3, top 2, whatever. So I did 6 to 10 because I rarely get a chance to, talk about them and why I love them and, that kind of thing. So, I did 6 to 10. Do you want me to start off with my number 6?
Yeah, start with whatever order you want to go.
Sure. So Chef Rakim is my number 6 MC of all time. And my favorite album from him, of course, is Only Built for Cuban Links. Now, I know Easton at the top of the year was like, I hope I never see a Liquid Swords and Only Built for Cuban Links.
Listen, man.
Ever again.
Listen. Too much, man.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about Only Built for Cuban Links and Liquid Swords on this episode.
That's all right, man. That's right. In this context, I don't mind, man.
Yeah, so...
it's just when people act like those are only 2 albums that have ever been made in the history of the world.
Right.
Oh, believe it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Only Built for Cuban Links again. I talk about this quite often, and the reason I love that album so much is because I think not only is it one of those, cinematic. It's like a cinematic album. It captures everything so perfectly. It's like an audio experience. I absolutely love it. No skips for me. I know somebody hit me up like, "Hey, do you listen to the last track?" I'm like, "Yeah, I run it through all the way through. I don't skip anything." And I think that Ray did a really dope job of capturing the mafioso theme that was really, really like prevalent back when the album dropped, and he did it so flawlessly. So that one's always stayed with me. That's my favorite album in hip hop entirely. So of course it'll be my favorite Ray album. And then my least favorite Ray album is Fly International Luxurious Art. And to me, that's the polar opposite of Only Built for Cuban Links. And I think that's why it stands out as my least favorite, because I just think that the theme, like the topics and the subject matter is so superficial for what Ray is capable of doing and deep diving into. It doesn't resonate. I don't like it. I don't even like the album art. It's a gaudy, it's like just a little corny, like I don't know, it's just something about it doesn't sit well with me. And to be really honest, I don't hear people championing that album either. No. So I don't think I'm in the minority with that. But when you do, like if you run through the whole catalog, I think that one would stick out as like a least favorite for sure. So for me, it's the Fila album, so to speak.
So Fila, not Immobilarity?
No, Immobilarity is better than that one for me personally.
See, I think I tapped out after. Is Fila before or after Cuban Links 2?
After.
That's after.
After.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I ain't even tuned in.
I remember seeing it, the album art, like everybody kind of talking about it on the TL all the time when it first dropped, and Ray was, doing a whole rollout for it, and I was like, the album art, it's almost the first time I want to say the album art kind of like made me like take a step back and be like, really? I kind of understand you, Kill, when you're like, I saw the album art and I didn't want to listen to the album. It was kind of like that. But I listened to it and I was like, nah, I shouldn't have. I don't know.
That's the one with that had the statue on the front. It was like
like the gold, Yeah.
Yeah, I had to tap out on Ray. Ray was like the ex-girlfriend you keep going back to and keep breaking your heart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the albums from Cuban Links, the Immobilarity. It was just like a downfall. Now we're like popping, and I'm just like, nah. And Cuban Links 2 came out, so it's like I don't even think I tapped into that album. And if nobody told me about it, like, you know what I mean? I was dipped from that. All right, dope. Easton, who you got for your crew, man?
So what did Portia do? Number 6. I'll do the same then. So number 6, DMX, man. DMX is my number 6 on my top 10 favorites. Obviously not just going with the flow, but my favorite, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Not only is it my favorite DMX album, it's in my top 10 favorite hip hop albums of all time. DMX, he's a conflicted artist, man. As I always say, at the risk of sounding repetitious, man, the passion's unmatched. Just what he goes through, what he puts down on record. Many people can look at him and say he's conflicted, or he's double-minded or hypocritical or what have you. But that's what I love about people like DMX and Tupac, which I always mention the two together. But that's what I love about him, because he'll be opening the album with a prayer. He'll be talking about wanting to murder and rob. They'll be talking about just God help him. Do you know what I mean? But these are the things I think make a good artist and a good album, because it hits every mood, every mode you're in. Yeah, man, it does the job for me. The impact it had on me in '98. The convo as well when he's talking to God, man, that's incredible, man. DMX has got art that can bring you to tears at times. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, by far my favorite. And my least favorite would be 2012's Undisputed. To be honest, I can't even really tell you any tracks off that, man, because I probably played it once or twice, didn't go back to it. The thing about DMX, all respect to DMX, we know how much he's loved, how much I love him as well. Do you know what I mean? God bless the dead and everything. But his sound got it was hard to listen to after a certain while. His voice and everything, I don't know if it was, you know what I mean, just what he was going through in his personal life or what have you. But that was a hard listen, Undisputed. I listened because it was DMX, but didn't like it at all, man. So that would be my least favorite DMX.
Was that the album that he said was not official records and he tried to sue someone because of it? Was it that one? Yeah,
the one that had the red DMX on the front. It dropped because I was picking out this one, Undisputed. And what's the other one he done around that time?
There's another one. It's just a picture of him on the front cover, and then he took some people to court and said, "Nah, that's not an official album by me." I can't remember what the name of it was.
So the one where he's standing on the front, it's sort of like yellowy, like he's in the desert or something. Yeah. So I don't think it's that one. I think it's the red one, unless I'm mixing the two up. But I'll be honest, I didn't give them much spin because I didn't enjoy them at all, man. So, but yeah, I think it was the black and red solid print one. That would be down as the worst for me for DMX, man. Can't listen to that. Don't go back to it at all.
Yo, what did you think about the album that just dropped?
You know what? I don't think it was as bad as everyone was saying. For me, once again, his voice was a bit of a struggle for me because I love DMX's voice. You know
was this album? I didn't know. Was this recorded before he died, or was this one of those we just gonna take some old acapella?
No,
it was recorded.
I think 90% of it was done, wasn't it? Yeah, I think they had to finish off a bit of it, but most of it was done because he was talking just before he died about hooking up with Griselda and things like that. So most of it was done because I was looking forward to it. I don't think it was that bad, to be honest. It's funny you say that because maybe this morning I was just spinning it again because I hadn't really listened to it much since it dropped. I don't think it was too bad, actually. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying it because he's not here. I don't think it was a bad album. It wouldn't be at the bottom of the list for me, for him. He's got 2 or 3 albums worse than that, in my opinion. So I don't think it was that bad, to be honest.
Now, Snack, you didn't like the beats, or you felt like X wasn't in pocket, or?
I felt like X was a guest on his own album. Mm-hmm. It almost felt like he dropped in, did a guest feature, and then tapped out. Like I don't think he did more than a verse on most songs. No. So a lot of it felt like it was unfinished, and it just didn't feel like X, man. It was like 40% X. Like his voice, the delivery, just none of it was there, man. It just felt empty. It just felt like it was put together really badly, man. So I haven't got time for Swiss Beats at the greatest of times, and I had even less for him after I heard that album, bro.
Honestly.
Yeah, I did not like how that was put together. I just thought, like, just let the man rest. If you're not going to put out something that's really going to capture DMX, and we all know what that is, that's real passion, that's real you know, we can feel when DMX is rapping. You know, he doesn't have to have the most intricate rhymes or any of that. We feel what he's saying, you know what I mean? And there was none of that on the album at all. It was all gone.
You know, the sad part about it, I think, with a lot of MCs that are coming from the 90s, at this point in their career, a lot of them are trying to figure out, who do I need to link with to stay relevant?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Which, like you said, it kind of falls into that. You're a guest. I love how you said that he was a guest on his own album, because who's popping? Yo, Griselda's popping. Yo, he may not even fuck with Griselda, but it's like, yo, they popping. I need to get down with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. Like when you're at that level in your career, and again, never in nobody's pockets, but just the money after he passed, like, you know, maybe he was in a position where it's like, yo, I got to put an album out. I got to get money because then we need to tour. So we need to drop an album. You know what I mean? So it kind of comes back to what we were talking about off camera, of just Nas having that freedom and that being able to just be like, yo, I'm good. I can do whatever I want. You know, and when you have that freedom, you know, if X had that freedom, I'm sure we probably would have got a different album from him. But when you don't have that freedom, it's like, all right, I gotta get who's hot, who else is hot. All right,
I totally agree, man. You know, totally agree, because at stages of the album, it did feel like he had to make it, rather than it was something that he wanted to make. I totally got that feeling, and whether it was him or his label, or people going, people want you, X, people want you back, and him like, all right, cool, I'll give him something. But it just didn't. There wasn't enough X on his own album for me, so I couldn't listen to it.
See, I felt like he was warming up. You know what I mean? It may sound mad to say, but I felt like he had a bad time, and we saw that he was sort of coming back to himself. Do you know what I mean? He had done the thing with Snoop there, the verses, and he was doing interviews again, the Breakfast Club, and that, not Breakfast Club, the Drink Champs and that. I felt like we was getting DMX back. So I felt like that album was him warming up to, maybe, I think the next one would have been a little bit more interesting. Like Slack saying, maybe we'd have had more of DMX on that. Do you know what I mean? So maybe he felt like he couldn't really carry the weight of the whole album by himself on this time. Do you know what I mean? But he definitely was missing from it a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? There wasn't enough of him on there, definitely. Even the track with Griselda, I think he had like the shortest verse as well. It didn't even feel like a whole verse. Do you know what I'm saying?
It felt like Griselda featuring DMX rather than the other.
100%, yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, it could be a little bit of both. Maybe he wasn't all the way there yet to do it, but we need to get something out, which again is what everybody's applauding Nas for. We talk about great magic on the curve, and it's like, okay, Nas has been in this game 30 plus years, and the dopest thing about his album, yo, there's only one feature. You know, you're getting Nas, you're just getting Nas.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And like you said, Easter, maybe that's where X was going, and we just didn't get a chance to actually see him get there. But nah, dope calls. Slack, who you got for your first joint?
For my first joint, I'm gonna go for my favorite MC from 1992 all the way through to 1999. Untouchable, no one was messing with him. Although Biggie is my all-time favorite MC. Redman.
Don't get slapped by Porsche. I almost got slapped last episode. I almost jumped out the window and Porsche had to bring it back. I jumped out the window for like 18 seconds, and then I was like, all right, my fault, y'all. I got caught up in the moment. It happens to the best of us. But yeah, so who is it? I'm interested.
So this is Brick City's own Redman. From 92 to 99, that dude was just dropping everything. Features, albums, classics. He was killing absolutely everything. 3 classic albums in a row. Some people would even say What's the Name is a classic. Some people would say 4, and I'm not going to disagree. I listened to Doc's The Name again the other day, and I was like, this album is actually tough. Like, this is much harder than I remember it being. He was really rapping on that album as well. Muddy Waters and Doc's The Name. He was really going in with the raps. But my personal favorite Redman album is always going to be There Is a Dark Side. And I know that it's a polarizing album because after his debut album went so crazy, people were expecting more of that from Redman. But he went totally left and went with a completely different theme for his second album. But for me, I don't know what it was, but that album just resonated with me, man. Like from start to finish, from the Dr. Trevor's intro all the way through to the Hurricane G feature of We Run New York. It was just, he was just taking you on some mad journey through the underground, and he stayed with that theme the whole way through. The singles, Rockefeller, Can't Wait, killer songs. I just love that album, and I could play it now, start to finish, never skip a tune. My favorite Redman album by far. I wouldn't say it's his best album, but it's my favorite album. I would say his best, the most polished album is Muddy Waters. And he himself would say that, you know what I mean? When I got the chance to chop it up with Red, you know, he did say that Muddy Waters was his personal favorite album, and he doesn't want to perform anything off Dark Side because he remembers the place he was in when he made it. So I fully understand that. But for me, when I hear that album, it takes me right back to when I had the red cassette tape, and I popped it in as soon as I got home, and I played that shit front to back. I know every single word, every skit, everything that's been put in there. It's still an incredible album, just the way it's been put together. However high he was, and if you don't remember making some of that album, he made an incredible album. So that's my favorite one. And my least favorite Redman album, I mean, after like Malpractice, he kind of started taking a real kind of dive when it came to albums. But when he made the Reggie album, that album was actually Reggie, man. That was some weak, that album. It was not good. I don't know what he was attempting. It was almost like he had to give Def Jam one more project, and he was like, "Oh, here you go, take this." You know,
Reggie was terrible, man.
Reggie was just, I don't know what Redman was up to on that album. It was, I think I've only heard it maybe twice, if that. Just I played it through again just to be like, is it really as bad as I think it was? And I played it again, and yeah, I was like, I never want to hear this again. It was terrible. So yeah, those are my two things.
That's crazy. For people watching, I want y'all to really pay attention to what Slack said about There's a Dark Side and playing it and knowing every word and every skit and knowing everything in it.
Everything.
That's what I'm always challenging folk to do. We go through music so quick that something is your album of the year or it's your favorite album ever, and you can't sing along with it. You know what I mean? You can't. That, to me, when I was growing up, that was the fun part of hip hop. It was learning every word. It was being able to, when your favorite song was on and you driving and you spitting it right along. The fact that people can't do that anymore and stuff, and not only not do it, but not do it on your favorite albums. It's like, y'all, you know, take a time out. It's okay to just, you know, be late to something new because something is dropping every week, and just really being able to say that. I want to hear somebody young. I want to hear somebody be able to say what Slack just said about something that was their album of the year in 2021. That you know the words, that you know the song, that you know the skits, you know all of that. And most folk don't. You know what I mean? So just a challenge out there. My number 6 is Big Daddy Kane. People know. If you follow me, I love Big Daddy Kane. I always say he was the Rosa Parks for dark-skinned niggas, because in 1988, I'm telling you, us dark-skinned brothers would not get no play out there. I'll be sure, Christopher Williams, them El DeBarge, them Ty Mac from The Last Dragon, they was running the game. And girls would be like, yo, you cute, but you just too dark, my nigga. And it was like, damn. And I like went to high school and I was a freshman, and just everybody was just in love with dark-skinned people. And I attribute that to Big Daddy Kane. So he was my favorite MC at the time. I love Kane. My favorite album is actually, it's a Big Daddy thing, his second album. I love Long Live the Kane, but what I always explain to people who are younger and weren't really around in those days is that a lot of those albums were built up by the singles. Like we heard Raw, we heard Set It Off, we heard Ain't No Half Steppin', we had the B-side of Just Rhyming with Biz. So by the time you got the album, you probably were only hearing 2 to 3 new songs that you hadn't already heard. You know what I mean? So I love Long Live the Kane, but it's a Big Daddy thing, was just, you know, the joint that just did it for me. Where is I should have pulled it out. But I mean, Another Victory, Mortal Kombat, Young, Gifted, and Black, Smooth Operator, Call Him Mr. Welfare, Rap for Kane, even I Get the Job Done. Pimpin' Ain't Easy, the first time I heard Nice and Smooth, Warm It Up Kane, like
Warm It Up Kane was my joint.
Yeah, this is just it to me right here. His worst album, easily for me at least, 1991's Prince of Darkness. You know what I mean? It was just, Kane to me was, I mean, The Lover in You, ooh, nah, nah, ooh, ah, nah, nah, nah. Like, yo, just the fact that, I would, if I was working at the label, I would have been like, bro, the name of this song is Ooh, Ah, Nah, Nah, Nah. Like, that's what we go with, Kane. Little brother with Little Daddy Shane. I'm like, yo, can we get a more original name than Big Daddy Kane and Little Daddy Shane?
Daddy Shane.
Grew With It. I'm Not Ashamed with Allison Williams. Flow. I mean, like, it did have Come On Down with Q-Tip and Busta Rhymes, but I just felt like this was just a horrible album. And I always, use Kane as what I'm always saying, you know, we need more fans, less stands, because everybody loved Big Daddy Kane. But when he started doing this shit, we always like, nah, that ain't
turned off.
Like,
yeah, for real.
And that's what these stands don't do. It's like the stands, you gotta just love everything that comes out from your favorite rapper. And it's like, nah, it's okay to be like, nah, that wasn't a good album. Like, try next time. Like, you're not gonna pass every test, you're not gonna get everything right. But it's just like now these stands would have just, like I always said, I like Big Daddy Kane. We didn't have the K-Nites. It was a group of people walking around like we the K-Nites and we the Rakim-Nites and we the Navy and we the B Club and we the this club. Like, yo, we were just fans of the music. If something was whack, it was a whack. We'll see what Kane got next time. You know, you don't write nobody off. So just another example is we need more fans. If your favorite rapper don't come with a dope album, don't be on Twitter gassing that nigga up talking about, oh, this was great. No, we like, yo, that shit was whack. Like, come better. You know what I mean? So that's my number 6. Porsche, who you got up next for your next one?
I've got the GZA. He's again my, you know, a Wu member, of course. Dope as hell. Liquid Swords is my favorite album from the GZA, of course. And we all talk about, again, these are albums we talk about all the time. And Easton, I apologize that I had to bring up Only Built for Cuban Links
you're good.
and Liquid Swords back to back. I won't.
You've broken the rule already, Portia.
I know. He's gonna write off like 2022 already. He was like, I said it, and look what happened.
You're good.
But anyways, like, I won't go in depth. I mean, sure, I love Liquid Swords for all the reasons that everybody in hip hop loves Liquid Swords, and it's just amazing production, amazing lyrics. GZA is so in pocket. Just everything he says just connects and is just brilliant. And then the, again, polar opposite of that album is Words from the Genius. And I know it was his debut album and it was on a whole different label, and, you know, and I love Easy Mo B. Easy Mo B produced that album, and no knock on Easy Mo at all. I think he did exactly what he was meant to do. I just think that it was just a whole different ball game happening for the GZA at the time. I think the lane that they wanted GZA to come out in was just not, it just didn't fit him as a person. It didn't fit the way that he thinks. It doesn't fit the way that we know him to be on subsequent albums. So I don't think it was anything to do with production. I think production was stellar. I love Easy Mo, but I think it's just and I don't even think that GZA likes that album, to be honest. I think he was probably, looking back, he's probably like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, that's such a bozo album. Like, it's just not at all what he's capable of doing. And every single thing is just, I don't know. I listened to it back after hearing Liquid Swords, and, you know, you listen to that album and you're like, what kind of corny stuff was this guy talking about on this album? Like, track after track after track, like, it just didn't stop. It was like a whole, you know, just a whole audio experience of corny. So my least favorite, and I would almost go as far as to say it's whack. Like, it's a whack album. It's not just my least favorite, but I think it's whack. So yeah, I'm glad that he found his lane. I'm glad that the RZA came into play. I'm just so thankful to everybody for the RZA that we know now.
Now here's the thing,
it's crazy.
And again, we had the good brother Ben Merlin's on with this book. If you haven't peeped this book, going off the story of the Juice Crew and Cold Chillin' Records, definitely cop this very dope book. And they talk about in the book how when Kane left Cold Chillin', they were looking for the next person to fill in. Yep. GZA's dark skin, high top fade, cool. And it just kind of clicked. When I read it in this book, it just kind of clicked, and it was like an aha moment of, oh, that's what y'all were trying. They were trying to make GZA the new Big Daddy Kane, the lover man or whatever like that, not really understanding that hip hop was changing and growing out of that view. Right. I know I do it for usually one MC that I really like. I kind of always gave GZA the pass for this one album, you know, because I almost felt like it wasn't a GZA album. I felt like it was a Genius album. You know what I mean? I know, Porsche, I know we're about to disagree again. Tell me this. Is there another GZA album? Because I feel like, y'all know how I feel about record labels. It's like living at home with your parents. So you know, you're not, it's hard for your crew to hold you accountable for like, yo, Easton can't hang out past midnight. It's like, nigga, I want to, but my mom won't let me. You know, I can't. So I don't think GZA went in to make this album like, yo, this is what I want to make. But I'm on a label. What was he, 17, 18? You know, like Naomi's 16. I can't imagine Naomi making an album right now or signing a record deal or whatever. So I personally don't hold this album against him because it was kind of like the same way I don't think most people hold the Rakim album against RZA. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that shit was whack. That, ooh, I love you, Rakim. But it's like, yo, it's my first record deal. They kind of learned through it, which is why we got Wu. You know, so Porsche, go ahead, tell me why you disagree.
Okay, I agree with you in that, yes, he was on a label and there was a lot of probably label influence in what we were hearing. I mean, we can hear that. The content is just so not what the GZA, like what we know and love about the GZA. It's just, it's the opposite of that. However, Liquid Swords is now forever going to be your debut, your sophomore album. I can't, you have to sort of kind of lay in that bed, you know, like you went after the label, you agreed to sign that contract, you made that album. Like, I don't know if innately
but you made the album, but did the label tell him this is what we want from you? Or did you sign the contract first? That's like, well, yo, if you sign the leave without, because again, they're kids. I know people who don't read when your phone says, hey, time to re-up, nobody reads that long ass page. Nah. You know what I mean? I know you. Porsche is the one person in the world who does. She actually does, everybody. So all the rest of them don't. You know, so I get it, but it's hard for me to say, yo, that I see what you're technically saying, because you know what? You're right. If this iPhone says, you know what, I'm going to spy on you 24 hours a day. Yeah. You're going to tell me, Kill, did they send you the contract? I'm going to say yes. You're going to say, did you read it? I'm going to say no. And you're going to say, well, Kill, that shit dead.
I'll even give it to the GZA that he read the contract. Maybe he didn't understand the intricacies. He's young. The contracts are very wordy, very like convoluted. I don't expect him to make sense of all of it. However, you spit those lyrics, like you knew what you were saying when you were saying them, and you knew that, like, again, it's just one of those things where it's like, I understand why you did it, because you were young, you got signed to a major at the time, you know, you've got them behind you, they probably promised you the world, you were after the world, you were on the right path to getting all of that. However, when it's just not, again, it's part of you now. It's in your tool belt. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, that's just got to be what it is. I can't rewrite history and pretend that GZA didn't do it. He did it.
Well,
he's made up for it tenfold. He's made up for it tenfold. But
I'm not pretending he didn't do it. But what I'm saying is the record contract isn't going to state what kind of music we want you to make. The record contract is just going to state royalties, payouts, all of that stuff. The record contract isn't going to say, we want you to be the next Big Daddy Kane. You know what I mean?
I wish Tracy Lee was on here. I wish Tracy Lee was here, because I would love to know if when no, we're going to make this type of album. If he was like, no, let's do it this way. Like, is that possible? I look at it like this.
The record business is shaky. So the thing is I want to get you. This is just like dating niggas. I want to scoop you up, but I ain't going to tell you I got bad credit and I live in my mom's house. Like, I'm not going to tell you none of that stuff up front. I'm going to wait until we good, and then you'll just find out, oh shit, this nigga still live at home with his mother. You know, so the record labels aren't going to be open. And I was like, hey, Porsche, we're going to want you to come in and we're going to want apartment 5B to be great. And you know what? You're going to look at the contract. It's going to be good. Then they're going to say, okay, now that you're on Spotify, your co-host is now Drake. And now you're stuck. So Spotify isn't going to say up front, hey, you know why? Because they want your personality. So they're going to get you first. Then they're going to tell you Drake is going to be your co-host. And you're going to say, I'm not going to do this. And they're going to say, well, we'll just sue you. And we'll litigate your ass to death. And we'll just break you until you're poor. And then Porsche will be doing a podcast with Drake. There you go. So, I always got to pull this out. Somebody says Liquid Swords. This is this Liquid Swords piece that I got. It's got like the nice thick wood. Nice. It's only, I think it was 37. Only 100 of these joints got made. So definitely one of them. Anytime somebody says Liquid Swords, I gotta show this joint off. So Easton, who you got up next for you? What's good, brother?
Right, who have I got next? I got Rakim next as my number 7, working upwards. So yeah, Rakim number 7. See, now straight away you'd think you'd want to put like Paid in Full or what have you, but actually my favorite album from Rakim is going to be the 18th Letter.
Nice.
Yeah, I came in, it's probably a lot to do with when I came in as well. I may mention that a couple of times today, but I came in on about 92s and I really started listening to and investing in the hip hop properly and taking it, you know what I mean, like that seriously. So that would have been what? Don't Sweat the Technique, 92 times.
92 is Don't Sweat the Technique. 18th Letter is like 94-ish. Like that's what been a long time, right? 97.
18th Letter, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thinking 92 Don't Sweat the Technique. So I probably would have came in on that time. So obviously Rakim, still Rakim, do you know what I mean? But if I came in on Paid in Full, it might have been something different. But for me, knowing who Rakim was, hearing who he was, and then hearing the singles that were dropping with Primo at the time, I couldn't wait to hear the album. So I remember my sister got it for me for Christmas that year, 97. Yeah, I had it on repeat, man. And I got the one that had the special edition that had all the tracks on the Arabian Rakim albums on it as well. But yeah, 18th Letter for me is a brilliant album. Standout tracks, the singles. I know a lot of people don't like when you say the singles are the best tracks, but they were hard, man. The Primo cuts on there. They really played that out.
Would I Be on the Mic?
That was
on the next album.
Yeah, that's on the next album, 99.
What's on the 18th Letter? I'm blanking on
18th Letter. It's been a long time.
Oh,
Guess Who's Back?
Right. All right, his first solo album. All right, bet.
That's right, yeah. New York, out there and all that. So yeah, hard album, man. Love that album a lot. I just feel Rakim is mad impressive on that lyrically, man. So my least favorite from him would be the one we just mentioned. Would be When I Be on the Mic album. Even though I love that track. The 2 Primo produced tracks on that album, The Master, 1999. The 2 Primo produced tracks on that. I love those, but I do not like the album, man. So obviously, he's gone from 97 to 99. That's not even a big wait. It's only a couple of years. But I don't know, man. It just didn't hit for me. When I finally heard it, it was really disappointing for me, man. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. I felt there was too many, nothing particularly wrong with radio reaches, but I don't want that from Rakim, you know what I'm saying? I just want to hear his lyrical ability. And you heard it, but it's just, it didn't do much for me at all, man. So 18th Letter, definitely. Even though Microphone Fiend is my favourite Rakim track of all time, I'm going to go with 18th Letter for my favourite album from him. And yeah, The Master for my least favourite. I was going to actually say Seventh Seal, but listening to them both again, like in preparation for the show, I was really like what Slack done with Reggie. I was just listening to them again, thinking like, which one's my least favorite? And yeah, take away the highlights off of the Master. Nothing else hits for me, man. So yeah, they're my 2 for Rakim, man. Number 7.
It's funny, man, because I just hate the record business, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just sitting here thinking, like you said, you know, at that time I was on the radio. I was at 889, and it's like you have these people who are trying to do these songs just for the radio. Then you got the songs where, to me, is why I always say Illmatic helped to ruin hip hop, because it moved us into this fast food place of, 2 Rakims, 2 Premiers, 2 Pete Rocks, give me a Nick Wiz, give me 3 over here, where I just really think that if Ra would have just tapped in with Rakim, why do I keep saying Rakim? Rakim tapped in with Primo or P, even Nick Wiz, if him and just one producer really got together and just really tried to do that. But again, I equate it to living at home. If you want to live at home with your parents, you may not have to pay as many bills, but you got to do what they say. You want to be independent and live on your own, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but now you got to pay all these bills. So it's really like, you want to be on a major, you're going to have to do some shit you don't want to do, or you could do an indie and then have to pay out your pocket. So it's just one of them bad places to be in the middle of. But yeah,
remember as well, Kill, when it dropped in 97, that's when hip hop was going through a major, Big had just died. Hip hop was going through the whole Jiggy era. Yeah. So you had a lot of labels saying, right, in order for you guys to get signed or to sell one record, you're going to have to do what Puffy's doing. You're going to have to take a hit from the 80s and make it sound so crazy. You're going to have a joint for the girls. You're going to have a joint for the clubs. You're going to have a joint from everybody. In order for you to make
Slag is a fucking fool. Slag is a fool. I'm just getting to see the timeline in person for the first time.
Yeah, I just
I'm like, this nigga Slag is a fucking fool, and now I get to see it live. So it's like almost seeing a comedian. You always hearing the bootlegs, then you finally get to go to a show. It's like, this nigga's really funny as shit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but now you're
man.
100% right, bro, and
I
that's
think
why
it
you
was
had
that
to try to.
man. Labels were just saying, listen, man, we're gonna get this producer, that producer, that producer. We're gonna have this because Rakim, man, like you said, if you had Nick Wiz, if you had Primo, if you had Pete, just in the studio with Rakim, we would have got an incredible album.
Yeah.
But you getting all these random guys, that's not Rakim. Rakim was used to working, doing the whole Eric B thing and making cohesive albums. So for him to now be having Primo doing a couple of tracks, Nick Wiz doing a couple of tracks, that wasn't what we were used to from Rakim. And I think that just showed, man, that was a time when hip hop was going for a major, horrible transition.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's and it's almost like, when you have cats like Rakim and you say, when you have cats like Premier P and you say Rakim, they're giving you your best.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like,
Exactly.
As a producer, you have folders A, B, C, D. These beats are, if I ever get a chance to get in front of Nas or Jay, these are the beats. Like, you're giving Rakim all your A shit. Like, you know what I mean? So you're going to get, and I mean, you're still talking about 96. If the album dropped in 97, that means we'll record it 95, 96.
Yeah.
So you're talking about Premier in his bag. You're talking about Ray Premier at his pinnacle. And what he could have given him. The same with P. So yeah, you're 100% right on that. Slack, who you got up next?
I've got a slightly different to you guys because what I tried to do was pick someone that you guys ain't gonna have. So I didn't go for 6 to 10, but I just went for MCs that are definitely in and around my top 10. But then I had to try and think of ones that ain't gonna clash with you guys. So Rock Marcy is high on my list of favorite MCs. Just since what he's done since 2010, man, is pretty much unprecedented in hip-hop, period. Like, this ain't a guy that, he came in with a crew, Flipmode Squad, but he wasn't really in much of their shit, if we're being honest. So we've only seen Rock like as a member of the UN, as kind of like a ghost member of the Flipmode Squad, but mainly as a solo MC and as a producer. I don't think he gets enough props for actually creating his own sound. If you listen to Marsburg, nobody was doing that shit when Rock Marcy got that album. Nobody. So I've got major respect for that dude, man, for what he's done. And he's had like the whole underground basically copying what that dude was doing 10, 12 years ago. So my favorite album for Rock Marcy is his second album, Reloaded. That album right there is a movie. I mean, the joints on there, man, 76 and just so many fire joints, man, top to bottom. Just that was Rock Marcy at its pinnacle. When it comes to the beats, when it comes to the rhymes, the braggadocio, that's where I feel Rock Marcy really became Rock Marcy. I think on the Marsburg album, it was a lot darker in tone. His rhymes were a lot darker. His style was a lot darker. On Reloaded, he was a lot more what we know Rock Marcy to be now. So that's where I think he was really created as the Rock Marcy that we know and love today. The album just goes, man. Like, I could put the album on, put it through top to bottom, and have to listen to it again.
Bro, Tech to a Mac.
Joints. What a way to start an album. Tech to a Mac. I mean,
Not Told? Oh my god. Iron Spray, man. Yeah, I go Reloaded is my favorite one too.
Crazy album. Crazy. My least favorite Rock Marcy album was his last album, Mount Marcy. After he had done the album with Stove God, that album is 5 mics to me. The album came out 2 years ago. This month actually, 2 years ago. And I can still play the album top to bottom. Stove God, that was his breakout. The album's just
it's right here, bro.
Crazy.
This on tap.
Crazy album. And obviously Rock Marcy produced that. So I thought with Marcy coming out, he's gonna give us some real heat. I just didn't like it. I remember I was talking to I can't remember who, I think it was Shorty I was talking to when it dropped. We're listening to it and it's like, this ain't it. This just ain't hitting at all. So I played it through and I thought, alright, let me come back to it again. Maybe I just woke up, it was early. Maybe I need to listen to it again. I played it again at night. I put put it on the big speakers, I put it on in the car, and I couldn't get into it. The beats just weren't good. Marcy was still rapping. Marcy raps on everything, but musically, it just sounded weird. I don't know what sound he was going for. It just wasn't hitting to me. I think it's been quite polarizing. I've seen people saying that they love it. I've seen people saying that it's not his best. But for me, that's the only album from Rock Marcy that I just don't ever want to revisit. All his other albums, his solo albums, RR2, Behold a Dark Horse, all the other stuff I listen to all the time. That's the only one album I've got no interest in putting on again. So for me, that is my least favorite album for him.
I agree with you 100%, bro. When I got that joint, I was hype as hell, and I was
hype,
like
bro.
You said, I was like, yo, this ain't it. Like, again, I don't know if this because you gave all the hot beats to Stove God or what, what's going on, but yeah, because and the one before that was if I'm not mistaken, that was I can't remember nothing, so I gotta keep looking at my phone.
Marciano or something.
Marciano. Like I love that
Marciano.
joint. Right, so coming off of that, and then the Stove God, I'm like, oh, this Mount Marcy gonna be crazy, and it just wasn't. So I feel you on that. The next person I got up is G-Rap. So he's number 7 on my list. Favorite album, definitely Road to the Riches. This whole thing, man, just I remember hearing the first time hearing Road to the Riches and just it being crazy. It's a demo, Poison. First time I heard Men at Work and just heard him like go for like 72 bars, Truly Yours, She Loves Me, not like everything. Like I just love this album. It's my favorite. My least favorite, and it's not whack, because there's a couple of joints on here that I don't have no beef with the album. It's just my least favorite. Is the Giannato story?
Oh, the Giancano.
Giancano story. So, and it's not that it's whack. It's just my least favorite of the G-Rap, joints. And I think there's probably like one more person with a whack joint, but then the next two is just like this. It's like not that it's whack. It's just it comes in last. You know what I mean? So I got Porsche. What you got up next?
KRS-One. I got KRS, and I mean, I didn't go with any of the BDP joints. I went strictly with his solo albums, just for the sake of, like making sure I'm not forgetting those. I'm purposely not mentioning them. So my favorite KRS joint, solo joint, is I Got Next. I love that. I love that album so much. I heard KRS perform it. And he's one of my favorite MCs performing. His concerts are brilliant. His energy, like all of that, and I think it's Rapture's Delight for me, to be honest. Step into a world. That one is just the song that kind of hits me, and I absolutely love it. The energy, just the flow, the way he spits the lyrics, the bars. Like I love KRS for that, for his capabilities, quality, the consistency. My least favorite of his albums, again, solo joints, is Spiritual Minded, and it's just.
God bless you for even listening, because I've never even heard.
I haven't heard that.
I listened to it, man. I listened to it.
God bless you.
It's a gospel album.
I'm sorry, it's a gospel album?
Yes, it is. It's a gospel album. It's very.
Now,
and it's
when you say gospel, is Kirk Franklin on it? Like, what makes it gospel? Like, is there a choir?
It's just very like religious, religiously sort of geared. It's very rooted in Christianity, very much.
That's
rooted.
probably
there's no cursing on there or anything.
Yeah, and that's not a problem. It's just that, like KRS, he's everyone knows that he's very preachy. This is the album that is like preachy to the next level. So it's just kind of like if you don't like that aspect of him, this album is absolutely not for you.
I know you don't really do it, but how are the beats though?
I don't think the beats are bad.
The beats aren't like terrible. I mean, again, I'm never hard on the beats.
Right. I know you're not hard on beats.
Yeah, I'm not hard on beats, but I think the beats, he did well with the beats. Does that make sense? Listen, if you're gonna listen to a MC of KRS's caliber making a very religious album, maybe I don't, that's not what I want from KRS. I don't need him teaching me about religion. I just, you know what I mean? Like, he's just not a pastor, nor is he, you know, like, it's just, that's not what I go to him for. So for me, that one, I just wish didn't really exist in his catalog, but I kind of get why he did it. And it really does kind of fall within his KRS-One preachy sort of, you know.
Why did he do it? Because now I'm intrigued. Why did he do it?
Probably because it's, again, like, you know, he's a very conscious rapper, and I think that sort of also brings to light a different aspect and a very serious aspect of what, you know, of just the way that he kind of carries himself. And I think personally, if I'm thinking about it critically, I think he wanted to have that on his record of, like, you know, being able to execute something like that. It's just not it's just not for me.
Right.
Yeah, he said he wanted to he felt his 10th album was a significant amount of albums to have, and he wanted to have something that meant something for his 10th album, so he wanted to make it spiritual, which that album came in. Yeah. And
again, like, he named it Spiritual Minded. It is exactly that. Again, like, the guy is very cohesive. Like, he executed the concept flawlessly. I just don't think it was a dope album. That's all for me.
I'm intrigued because when you said it was a gospel rap, I hate gospel rap. You know what I mean? And everybody knows I'm a Christian, I go to church, all that great stuff. And all my friends from that part of, you know, are like, yo, you don't like gospel rap? I'm like, nah, it's corny. It's whack to me. The whole God is good, God is great. It's just whack. Like, I'm glad it speaks to y'all. That's a wonderful thing. I just think it has to be done in a flyer way. You know what I mean? When I look at Brand Nubians, that was gospel rap. They were sitting around telling you about Allah, 5% Nation. They just made that shit look fly. I remember the first time I saw a Wake Up video, I was like, yo, what is this? Like, the beat is dope, the dudes is rhyming, like, yo, this is dope. And I just don't feel like Christian rappers do that, for me at least. You know, the beats are usually blah, the rhymes are usually blah. And it's like, just God is good, God is great. Tell me a story. I don't know. Tell me how, I don't know, do something different. Make the shit
I love when rappers integrate God and their spiritual beliefs into their raps. I just don't know a whole album front to back being all of that. Like, it's just very, it's like literally taking like a class, like a religious studies class. Right. You know, and this one was about Christianity.
Right. And I think it just has to be done well. Like, for instance,
exactly.
I don't sell coke, but I'll listen to Pusha T every day of the damn week. Why? Because he talks about selling coke for the past 20 years, but he does it so fucking good. Right. He makes it good. And there's somebody else who talks about coke, and we're like, fast forward, we know you sold all the
We've
coke.
Heard this.
You know. But Pusha, I'm just listening to this old mixtape. Yo, I'm still spazzing off this stuff that Pusha said. He said something like, I got my hand in the white like I'm on a parallel beams or something like that. It's just like, yo, how many different ways can you So again, I think it's doable. You just have to be gifted enough. Right. And enough people aren't. Like, that's just the thing. Enough people aren't gifted enough to talk about. And keep in mind, Pusha's been doing this since 97, talking about coke. You have to be gifted to do that. You also have to be gifted just to do it one time. Like, of course, like you said, it's just one album. But if you're talking about the same thing, you got to find a way to make it interesting and keep people's ears and not have people tune you out. And like you said, Easton, there was no cursing. And the thing is especially now with a lot of younger folk in hip hop, it's like, yo, the album I just named, not one curse word on it. Not one. You do not see the parental advisory sticker on here, or there's not one curse word. This was the cool gangster of rap, or cool genius. Some people said both, but not one curse word. So you can make a dope album. Yeah, you can make a dope album with no curse word. There was one curse word on Rakim. I'm gonna tear shit up, like, but that was it. But like, and that was the shit with hip hop back in our day. There would be one curse word. Kane would be like, oh shit, like. But it wasn't this overabundance of curse words. But that's the whole pre and post Straight Outta Compton era right there. Because then the very next G-Rap album, this joint, you see the big curse word, the parent advisory sticker right there, talk like sex. Like, so again, how you went from no curse words, that's like going from Sinbad to Eddie Murphy overnight. Like, you know, it doesn't happen like that. So that's that pre and post Straight Outta Compton and influence that.
Straight Outta Compton was definitely the change.
Easton, who you got next for yours?
Same as you, Kill. Cool G Rap. I got him down for my number 8. I was going to do an honorable mention because you had the same one, but we've got completely different albums, so I'll still run with that. My favorite Cool G Rap album is 456, 1995. Love it. I think, yeah, Cool G Rap, man, he's crazy on that. It's a Shame, Fast Life, Ghetto Knows are probably my 3 favorites on there. But just, yeah, obviously the albums that he done with DJ Polo, you know how good they are. But I just feel that Cool G really got into the spitting element on 456. That's when I think he's always been impressive, but I think that's when you really see the runs that he's doing, and you see that, you know, the pun influence. Him influencing pun. You see all of that more on 456. I just think he kills it. I love it, man. 95 was a stacked year, so it might not be mentioned that much because 95 was such an amazing year for hip hop, but it was one of my favorites from 95. I played that a lot, man. So 456, and then what did I have for my least favorite? It was Once Upon a Crime with Necro in 2013. I had to write it down because I didn't remember this album. I maybe visited it. Yeah, once or twice. Yeah, I mean, Cool G's got a lot of work, man. He's got a lot of product out there. Yeah, I just didn't like it, man. He was still rapping on it though, like he was still doing what he does, but the beats were like, it almost felt like just too metally, too like techno almost. I didn't feel it at all, man. But yeah, they're the 2 I'd go with for Cool G Rap for my number 8. Yeah, those are my picks for Cool G.
Let me ask y'all a question, because Easton, you said something like you were talking about Cool G Rap with Polo and things like that. Do you think that there's a big difference between the two? Because I personally don't. Like, because Polo ain't do shit. Like, you know what I mean? Or like with Eric B and Rakim, like a couple of years ago, they was like, yo, it's the Eric B and Rakim reunion show. And I'm like, the fuck? It's the same as a Rakim show. Eric B ain't never been no DJ. So I'm just wondering, like, do you think maybe if it said Cool G Rap and Polo, more people would have gravitated to it? Or you think like the name don't? Because again, I saw when people like, oh, Eric B and Rakim are back together. It's like, who gives a fuck? Like, I mean, like, you know, or like how Porch was saying, like, I'm gonna do KRS and not do BDP. Like, do you feel like there's a difference between
for age? Yeah, I think it's the generation, because obviously when I came in, obviously Cool G Rap was DJ Polo, and this is no disrespect to 80s hip hop, of course, you know, it's the blueprint, but I think that's the little bit of the divide right there. So for a lot of people, when they think of Rakim, it's either going to be one of 2 Rakims. It's going to be old school Rakim, or it's going to be the newer era Rakim, and they think of 97 onwards. And I think Cool G Rap is the same. I do feel that there's a difference in the sense of, if you look at Cool G's flow and the sound, it was more of a dated, older school flow before. But what was the last DJ Polo and Cool G Rap album? That would have been Live and Let Die, yeah?
The Live and Let Die joint.
So what would that have been? 93?
93? 93.
So when you think about it, only 2 years later was 456. And when you look at, I think, if you play now Live and Let Die and then play 456, I think there's a completely different feel to how Cool G's spitting. He's more technical, he's more intricate, his voice even sounds different in just a little 2-year span. And if you look at the work he was doing in between that time as well, even his verse on that Frankie Cutlass Politics and Bullshit album, he just went crazy, man. So for me personally, it was crazy short, like it was mad. So for me personally, I think there's a difference between your Rakim, that era, and the newer era, and Cool G, this era, that era. I think so. And same with Portia's pick with KRS as well. Yeah, definitely. Because what was KRS's first album after that? Was
his
it
first solo album was Return of the Boom Bap.
Say that again, sorry?
Return of the Boom Bap. That was his first solo album.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel that there's a different feel. I don't know if it's the... Sorry to bang on, I'm going to look at Gangstar then. If you look at Gangstar like that as well, I always felt that Primo's production was different outside of Gangstar. So when you look at how Primo produced, for me personally, I always felt that there was a lot of catering for Guru in his production. When you looked at Primo's production outside of Gangstar, I always felt it was a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's that same kind of element, that same kind of thing, that when you're in a duo or you're with a DJ, there are going to be certain things you're doing to cater for each other. But when you come out of that unit now, there's a bit more liberty, there's a bit more freedom. Maybe you can try different things. So I do think artists are different when they leave their DJ or their group or what have you. There is usually an element of change. Not necessarily always better, but...
Right. It's a good point, because I'm looking at it like with Premier, I feel like he did it. See, this is for the old man in me. I just felt like Eric B, fucking Polo, they ain't do shit. So it's kind of just like, you know, as far as production. But you're right when you're looking at it from the standpoint of it being like, well, let's try this, let's try that. You know what I mean? So that you've just given me another way to look at it. That's not just about the producer, but it's just about you're in a group. Maybe Polo wants to do this, even because I'm just finding out Polo ain't even do the scratches on half that shit. So I'm like, wait, so you ain't do the scratches and you ain't produced, nigga. What was you there for? What you like eat up with LL? You just holding the radio on stage or whatever. So, but that does make sense because you're still in the group. So it's like, yo, I don't want us to go down that route or whatever like that. And now that I'm solo, I can go. It's like breaking up with your girl. Like I can live wherever I want to live. You ain't want to live in Queens before because I wanted to live in Queens. That's a good point. That even though they didn't necessarily, even if your girl didn't help pay the rent, she still lived there and she still had some say on what y'all did. So great point.
Because one more thing, am I right in saying that it wasn't even meant to be Rakim with Eric B at first?
He was supposed to be Freddie Fox.
Right, exactly. So I mean, when you look at it, exactly, and then look how it ended up. So I think there's an element, and you know, from that era, I think the DJ was always the lead person, weren't they? It was more like the DJ, then you had the MC. Do you know what I'm saying? So they were the lead people. So I think the MC would have to cater for the DJ or even the production that they have to go by. So when the MC begins to branch off and do his thing, I think you always see change when the solo spitter goes and does his thing. But yeah, interesting question, yeah.
Good point. Like, who you got up next?
Up next, I'm gonna go for Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes, again, one of my favorite artists throughout the 90s. Even from LONS, I know that a lot of, like, I think we all loved their debut album. The second album kind of, you could tell that shit wasn't going right in the crew with the second album. The production was kind of all over the place. There was a couple of joints on there. What's Next is fire. A couple of tunes, but overall as an album, it's just a bit weird. So when he branched out and did his solo stuff, I remember vividly, one of my best friends at school came to me and he was like, bro, have you heard Woo-Ha by Busta Rhymes? I was like, nah, I ain't heard it yet. This was the time before you can touch your phone and have a song up there, you know what I mean? So I went home and I was waiting for it to come on the box because they used to show you like what was coming up next. Right. And it was Busta Rhymes Woo-Ha. This was mad early. And when it came on, I was like, this is the dopest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. The video, the way he structured the raps to end every line with the same sound. Just everything about it, the energy, the product, everything was just fire. So I was like, damn, this album is gonna kill. So when he actually dropped the album, and that video as well led off with Everything Remains Raw. So when I heard the Everything Remains Raw leading into the song, I was like, that Everything Remains Raw sounds crazy. That was a banger. So The Coming is my favorite Busta Rhymes album. I know people up and down the timeline are saying Busta ain't got a classic album. Let me tell you that, man. The album came out in what, 94?
96.
No, 96. That album.
It was 96.
I remember. 96.
God, my brain is gone.
I can play that album still now. Are you telling me that album?
Man.
Everything Remains Raw, Woo-Ha, Hot Fudge,
Abandoned Ship.
Abandoned Ship is an absolute killer.
Abandoned Ship is still good.
That album's got so many joints on there that it still kills me how people say Busta ain't got a classic album, but that's a whole different conversation. For me, that I do play it in the car a lot. I played it the other day and I was like, this album is still sick to this day. I remember those songs ringing off in the clubs. I remember being at home and those songs would do it. I would bring girls to the house and they would love it. Like, that album literally ticks all demographics, man. So I love that album to death. Busta Rhymes is an artist as well. I've got so much time for him. But I'd put him above KRS-One when it comes to live shows that I've seen. I've seen Busta Rhymes 4 times. I've seen him once at Carnival and I've seen him 3 times on stage as a solo artist with him and Swift Star. They killed it every single time. KRS will probably be next, but Busta Rhymes is an artist, man. Yeah, amazing. So when he dropped the Year of the Dragon album, I was extremely disappointed.
Which one is that? Which one is
this
that?
Is one. I think this is what was when he was on Cash Money. He had signed to Cash Money for a couple of years, and
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah,
I don't even remember that.
It was bad. I think it was like 2009, around that kind of time.
Did it have that Thank You track on it?
No, that was
that mixtape.
That was on the Back on My Bullshit album, I think. That was with him and Q-Tip, right? Yeah. But this one it had like Cash Money. It was just shit. It's just bad, top to bottom. If you're a fan of Busta, you probably still wouldn't have caught this album. I think he was on Cash Money for maybe 2 years or so, and then they had creative differences, so they say. And then he departed, but thankfully he departed, because if he kept on making music like that, I would have probably, forgotten who this dude is and just pretended he never existed, because it was just bad. I listened through it like maybe once or twice. Just bad music, and I think he himself would love to remove that from his resume. It just wasn't good. So those are my picks for Bus. Yeah, keep it that way, man. Keep it that way.
Yeah, I totally forgot he was on Cash Money for a minute. So yeah. Good thing I did forget that. Next up, I'm gonna go with LL Cool J. Favorite album from LL. Mama Said Knock You Out.
Mine too.
I think this album was flat out incredible for people not knowing. In fact, I'll actually do this backwards then. His worst album to me was Walking with a Panther, 1989.
Okay, yeah.
The singles, I'll never forget the first time I heard I'm That Type of Guy. I was just like, no, Going Back to Cali. When I heard Going Back to Cali, I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And it was on the soundtrack Less Than Zero. And it was in Less Than Zero, also had Public Enemy's Bring the Noise, which was crazy.
Fire.
PE's Bring the Noise was crazy when that dropped. So I'm like, oh, LL's on this, and I heard Going Back to Cali. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this shit? Like, yo, bro, what are you doing? Then the next single was I'm That Type of Guy, that was right in that same realm of Going Back to Cali. And I'm just like, yo, this dude is losing it. Big Old Butt was aight. Then he had One Shot at Love. This boy had like 8 love songs on here. Like he took the whole, I Need Love and just ran with it. And then they dropped Jinglin' Baby last. And Jinglin' Baby was okay.
Yeah,
but then when Marley remixed it, with the remix to Jinglin' Babies, that was crazy, which then opened the door to this with Marley Marl producing this. And to me, it's one of those things where you have an MC who has something to prove, because again, L was the shit. I loved radio. We all love Bigger and Deffer, but when that Walk with a Panther came, we was like, nah, nigga, that ain't it. See, when you let your MCs know, I got a theory on LL. I'm gonna tell you. So this is what happens this is what you get when you let MCs know they done fucked up. Like Bill Duke said in Minister Society, you know you done fucked up. This is what you get. Because if niggas would have been now, we'd be like, oh, L, that Walking with a Panther was good. We liked it, then we don't get this. But you get this because you got an MC who hears his name on the street is that shit is whack. Marley had kind of fallen out with the whole Juice Crew, so you got a producer who has something to prove.
Hungry.
This is what you get. This is what you get when you get 2 hungry people. I mean, everything on here. And the thing I love about this album is it had something for everybody, but in a hip hop way. Booming System was for the hoods, for people with their Jeeps. Around the Way Girl is the radio song, but Around the Way Girl was not no still radio hot. Song. Eat 'em Up L if you wanted him to get on that. Mr. Goodbar, Murdergram, Cheesy Rap Blues. To me, Cheesy Rap Blues is one of the dopest songs ever, because he's really breaking down how you can go from being the shit to nobody wanting to even fuck with you. You know what I mean? To me, this whole album, Farmers Boulevard, Mama Said Knock You Out, Milky Syrup, just everything about this is dope.
You know what I love about the album as well, Kill? The album is responsible for Lords of the Underground's debut album, Here Come the Lords. Because they heard what was going on in the studio next door, and they was like, Marley Marl was making stuff like that?
Oh, word? That's what they was recording at the same time? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so they was like, right, we gotta get some of these kind of beats. So whatever they had before, that whole album got changed. They were like, we gotta come harder. I heard who was it? Was it Mr. Funky talking about how they made the album? And they was like, yeah, we heard what was going on in that studio. LL was not messing about, and Marley Marl was making no beats. He had to change the whole shit up. So I love that Lords of the Underground album, and we have that album to thank for it.
Yeah, one of my favorite line. L has always been that ladies dude, but he had this line on there. He said, "You got a man, that's something we gonna talk about. He's smart enough to have you, but dumb enough to let you out." Yo, you know how many times I use that line, my nigga? Like, yo, that ass, like that. You don't get no doper than that. Like, he's smart enough to have you, but then he's dumb enough to let you out. So, yeah, to me, just 5 Mic classic album, and the Wag joint is Walking with a Panther. Porsche, who you got up next?
Pharoahe Monch. I'm so thankful that I can talk about Pharoahe Monch properly now, because that 13 album was not it for me. So
Here's the thing. Do you call that a Pharoahe Monch album? See, I don't even put that in his disco.
It's not in his discography. So for me, my favorite Monch album, I know, I think everyone gravitates towards Internal Affairs, and I do love that album, but it's Desire.
You're going to say Desire. I knew it.
Yeah, it's Desire for me. And I just, listen, thinking about Pharoahe Monch for this particular topic, I was like, dude doesn't have a whack album. He doesn't have an album that disappointed me. He doesn't have an album that needs to be on this list. He doesn't have, like, this guy is one of the most consistent rappers ever. And even if I took out stuff with organized confusion. I didn't even add that. Even if you add that, it's still hella consistent. He still doesn't have, he's not even part of something that disappointed me. And I, again, don't put 13 in the Pharoahe Monch albums for all intents and purposes of this topic. So for me, it's just Desire's my favorite, hella consistent. The bars are crazy. And I love the production on that album a lot. My favorite track is produced by The Alchemist, Desire, the title track. So for me, it's just, that album doesn't miss, and none of his albums miss for me. Hip hop albums, anyways, rap albums. So Pharoahe Monch, and I don't have one that's not. This guy doesn't have an album that's so nice to me. I hate to be like, oh, and I'm not going to name one that's whack. Like, I really tried. I
gotta push you, Porsche. What's your least favorite one then? Because I did that. Like I said, like G-Rap doesn't have one that's whack. But what's the one that's that's just your least, that comes in last?
PTSD would be the one that comes in.
I thought you were going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, PTSD. And again, that's just because Kill pushed me. Like, that's still a 4 mic album to me.
Yeah.
It's still like 4 mics is more than, a lot of other MCs are ranking or like bringing in even now. So yeah, again, Monch is an alien. He's brilliant. I absolutely love this guy. He's great. And I can't wait until he actually puts out another rap album. Please.
Who you got up next, Easton?
Number 9, Nas. I've got 9. Yeah, Nas. I know it's pretty high up. Some people will be thinking, "Wow, what are we at number 9?" But it is what it is. But yeah, so Nas, number 9.
Pause for a second right there, because you know what, y'all. This is what's been irritating me on the timeline. I got a whole new energy for 2022. I'm not doing nut shit this year. That's what's not gonna happen. Like, somebody tried to tell me, how can Big still be at your number 1? We can stop right there, my nigga. Like, on some real shit. Dog, I'm not telling you who to marry, where to work at, none of that shit. Like, where do y'all think it's okay to come in and tell me, well, don't you think Biggie should move because you haven't grown up with his music? Nigga, I think fucking Donny Hathaway is one of the greatest people ever, and I think he was dead by the time I was born. Like, don't do that, y'all. Don't do that this year. We're not doing that. I'm blocking all the dumb shit this year. Don't tell me who should be on my top 10 and why is somebody so high or why is somebody so low. Because you know what? I don't give a fuck where y'all have y'all people at.
Right.
So again, like, yo, it doesn't. If you I told y'all I had a dude who said Smooth B was his GOAT MC. Like, I never said you're wrong, you're crazy. I did say you gotta explain this shit to me. Like, I do want to know, like, what Smooth B verse are we talking that just put him over everybody else? But I'm never gonna tell somebody who and who shouldn't be on your list, that they too high or they too low. So sorry about that, East. I just because that
you're good.
That's totally
how the hell is Nas number 9? He did. nigga, I know what Nas did, and he's my number 9. Like, that's just that. Like, leave it be. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I put Doggy Style and Only Built for Cuban Links on my 2 favorite hip hop albums of all time, those 2. And someone hit me up and he was like, I'm convinced you hate Jay-Z. I'm like, huh? They said, you must hate Jay-Z because there's no way you prefer Doggy Style over Reasonable Doubt. Yeah, he's my favorite rapper, but still, Doggy Style and Only Built for Cuban Links are my 2 favorite hip hop albums of all time. It don't matter what it is what it is. But yeah, so Nas number 9. Favorite album from Nas is It Was Written.
Nice.
Yeah, It Was Written. I just think he's a perfect MC on that. Do you know what I mean? They don't really need much more saying. For me, he's at his best on the album lyrically. I don't think he's ever touched that point before or after, and I don't think he ever will, to be honest. Lyrically, It Was Written was just immaculate. I was speaking about Biggie's growth from Ready to Die to Life After Death. How amazing that growth was in those couple of years period. The only growth I put next to that is Nas's growth on Illmatic to It Was Written. I think he's perfect MC on that. We all know the tracks that are on there, so I won't list those. But yeah, that's my favorite from Nas. I really struggled with my least favorite because I had it down as Nasir and Nostradamus. I
really think me and North are the only 2 people who like the Nasir album. Me and Kanye's doing the only 2 people who obviously like this album. Nobody likes this album. I'm always like, what's wrong with it? And everybody hates it. I'm sorry, man. It's just hilarious because I'm literally the only person. North may not even like that shit, come to find out. Like, it may just be me. And I'm just by myself. But so Nasir,
you know what? You know what the thing is about it? I think the reason why I ended up going with Nostradamus as well is because Nasir has 7 tracks, yeah? And the Nostradamus is a full-on album. I can't remember exactly how many tracks are there. So I think there's a lot more wiggle room for you to get it right on a shorter album. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's not really much excuses. But if we're looking at the length of tracks that's on Nostradamus compared to the tracks I played, there's 2 tracks, a possible 3. And I think at that time, I know we've, all the issues and blah, 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 but at that time, man, Nas, he didn't have an excuse like to not deliver the best. If tracks were leaked or this or that. I mean, he had just come off the back of, was it I Am was after that? Once again, I'd probably stand alone here. So I'm probably like you, Kill with Nasir. I'm probably one of the very few people that thinks I Am is a fantastic album. I do not understand the hate it gets. When you start listing the tracks that are on I Am, you start thinking, right, it's actually a good album. I Am's a brilliant album, I think.
It gets hate because of people know what it should have been.
Definitely.
Should have been the double album. People have heard that the songs that leaked and they know what should have been on that album. So when they hear what he remade and what he actually gave us with I Am, it doesn't measure up.
See, but I Am, that's the joint that the stuff from the Lost Tapes was supposed to be on.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Right. So we know if it had that stuff on it, definitely. But it's like I think me and you, Slack, were talking about. I think it was Mace, and when people was talking about how Mace used to rap and blah blah blah. We can only go by what we're given. Do you know what I'm saying? We can't really say shoulda, woulda, couldas. And for me, how I Am is packaged and given to us is the only way I can judge it. We know what should have been on it or what could have been, but I can only go by what we have. And for me, out of that track, there's probably only 3 songs on that track on that album that I don't like. Every other track I think is hard. Nas' storytelling is brilliant on that. I think it's a really good album. Do you know what I'm saying? So I went with Nostradamus. There's only 2 tracks, a possible 3 that I play, but around that time frame, no disrespect to Nas, but when Nas dropped Nasir, no one's expecting greatness from Nas at that point. Let's be honest, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things about Magic as well. I love Magic. I think it's his best album since 2012. I love it. But it's almost like a surprise because we know he's got it in him, but I don't think anyone's expecting greatness. If you get a good album from a artist at that point in their career, then it's just good to have a very good album. But no one's expecting greatness, in my opinion. I think around that time when Nostradamus was due to drop, we should have had something golden around that time. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it was terrible. I hated it, like every minute of it, man, apart from 3 songs. So that's definitely my least favorite. So yeah, It Was Written favorite, Nostradamus' least favorite for me.
It's funny, during the IM time, I think some people, because I can only speak for me, I was just caught up in that I want to premiere Nas album. You know what I mean? I got tired of just the New York State of Mind part two, and you know, the Nas is like, and just coming in for that one single. You know, but this was Slack was talking about earlier, even before, well, I don't know the years because my brain is all scattered, but that's when you just had to get that one song for the streets. So I felt like that's what Nas was always doing. You went to premiere to get you that one song for the streets, but then what happened is, as a listener, you hear Nas is like as the first single, and you're like, yo, he's back. And then you hear the radio song, you're like, you know what I mean? So I think that was the problem. I know me at that time was like, I just want the Nas premiere album. And almost anything else that comes, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear about no knock boots or, you know, songs with.
That's terrible, man.
I don't ever want Timbaland and Nas in the same studio. Like, it just stopped at that point. And I agree with you, Easton. I think the only difference maybe with Nas now is because of King Disease 1 and 2, we did have expectations for Nasir. Like, if King Disease didn't exist and we just coming off of the Nasir album, and then we get Magic, then it's like, oh shit. But I think coming off of Nasir, getting King's Disease 1 and getting King's Disease 2, now people did have their expectations kind of back up because he gave you those two albums at such a high level, you know. But like I said, if he didn't, and we just got Magic from Nasir, then you talking about me, it's like talking about people calling it a 5 mic album. If they went from Nasir and we missed out on 3 years and he came back with me right now at this point. You know what I mean? But I think kind of King's Disease 1 and 2 kind of revved us back up to say, Nas still has it. Him and Hit Boy got a synergy. I was shocked with King's Disease 1. You know what I mean? So, and he won a Grammy on that, right?
He did,
yeah. So.
See, I wasn't a big fan of that, to be honest. But
King's Disease, again, I'm the only one. I'm literally everybody. When we did the show, everybody else had King's Disease 1 and their last, and that's actually my favorite. You know what I mean? So just the craziness of my brain. Slack, what you got up next, good brother?
Could I put in a duo for the next one?
Hell yeah!
So my next one is Outkast, and
okay.
When I first, I'd never heard of Outkast when I first got that album, but I remember it vividly. It was 94, and I just bought another album. I can't remember which one it was. And then I just saw the cover of Southern Playalistic just sitting there, and I was like, "Is this even hip hop? Like this might be some R&B shit." So I said to the dude, "Like, is this hip hop?" Because it was in the hip hop section. He was like, "I think so." I said, "All right, I'm gonna buy it anyway." I bought that album, and I must have played that until the tape stretched. That album is incredible. Production from Organized Noise, Andre and Big Boy, and Big Boy was the star at Outkast. I don't care what anyone tells me. Big Boy was the star when that group first started. So it's really interesting to me now to see people like creaming the arse of Andre 3000, like he's, you know, godson. Although I love him as an MC, I think that.
Sorry.
Listen, I don't know how you do this live every week. Like, this is literally the timeline in person right here.
That's what it is, man.
So MC, man. He's got some brilliant verses, and I love the way he raps, and I love the vividness of his storytelling, and I love the way he puts words together, and I love his cadence, and I love his accent, and I think he's an amazing MC in many different aspects. I really do. Yeah. But Big Boy owned the album for me, man. Big Boy he had some lines on there, man. And every track from the beginning, even the tune that Andre's talking about when he met these two girls at the mall, he got one pregnant, she's calling him up, and he's like, "Click, not me." And I was like, this guy's crazy. To the beat, like the bass line on Hootie Hoo, I mean, crazy. And when the drums drop, everything about that album. They had the singles, Southern Playalistic, Players Ball the Prize. It just flowed. The only song that I used to skip on there, don't kill me, but I used to skip Funky Ride. I've learned the error of my ways. I've grown up. And when
that's a repeater now.
And it's a repeater. I literally will play that shit through, and I'll run that shit right back again. Amazing album. I think a lot of people, they say Aquemini is their best album. because they had kind of evolved their sound. They had incorporated reggae and roots music and all sorts of stuff. And I can go with that. It's not my personal favorite Outkast album. I think Southern Playlistic is flawless. I don't skip one song on that album. I definitely skip Mamacita on the Aquemini album. But I will put Southern Playlistic as their best album to me. I think Organised Noise were hungry. Their bass lines are incredible. Their production is so crisp. Like you can hear every note, every instrument. It's just incredible. Down to the beats they gave to Goody Mob around that same kind of time, 94, 95. Brilliant music, man. I would say Idlewild would be my least favorite Outkast album, but I don't really class that as an Outkast album because I think that's more of a soundtrack to the music. So I don't really class that as a cast album. So I'd say my least favorite album is Stankonia. So after the first three, incredible, Atlian's incredible, Aquemini incredible, then we got Stankonia, and I'm not enamored with the album. I understand that they were experimenting with funk, with a lot of different kind of sounds. This is when they were really starting to produce a lot of their own music as well. You had Mr. DJ joining them as a production crew, Earth Tone 3. I know that they were producing on Atlian's and Aquemini as well, but this one, it felt like they were really kind of experimenting a lot more. And it just didn't work to me. I skipped so many songs on the album, and I could literally just count the amount that I like. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that album at all. And it's not that it's whack. I wouldn't say that it's a whack album. I'd just say the standard they set on their first three albums, I was excited to buy Stankonia. And when I bought it, I just didn't enjoy it at all. And I know some people are very conflicted about the Love Below and Speaker Box, but I think Speaker Box I love Speaker Box. I love it. Also, I don't mind the Love Below. I know people were angry that Andre was singing and not rapping on there, but damn it, that's what he wanted to do. And if he wanted to make a funk influenced album, then he aced it. If I'm being completely honest, and considering he did the production, a lot of that production on his own, I think he did a really good job. So I would say that is a good cast album. So yeah, I'd have to put Stankonia down, man. That's one that I just didn't enjoy from them.
I agree.
And the thing about the Love Below, I love the album personally. Prototype is one of the dopest slow jams. Really? Raheem Devon redid it, and I'm like, and Raheem can sing, and I was like, I like 3000.
Nah, you ain't touching it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It just, even somebody who can really sing like it's just 3000 is just what he does. Next up, I'm like Porsche. I got who I like to call the Sade of hip hop, which is Pharoahe Monch. You know what I mean?
Consistent, Mr. Consistent.
Fierce, 99. The next album, 2007. That's 6 years. Nobody goes 6 years in hip hop without dropping an album. Like, that's eternity. And then from, Desire to War was 4 years. And then from War to PTSD was 3 years. So it's like, that dude is it. I'm like Porsche. There's no whack albums in his discography at all. My favorite, Internal Affairs. I was still on the radio at this time, and my man from Wackest was like, yo, come down to my office. I got the new Mos and the new Pharoahe album. And I remember me and my man Jace went to get them. And I played this so much. I don't think I even listened to that Mos album for like a couple of weeks because this just couldn't leave. I couldn't get, this just wasn't coming out. You know what I mean? It was just, this was incredible. The other thing I don't think Pharoahe gets credit for is his album cover. Like, this album cover, banana cover.
The War album cover.
That's true.
The Mummy cover. I mean, that's crazy.
And then the gas mask.
The gas mask. I mean, these albums, and then the PTSD. Like, his album cover is incredible. I'm going to go for my least favorite. And again, it's just not whack. All his albums are 4.5 or higher to me. But I'm going to just go with the War album as my least favorite, but I love it to death. I give this a 4.
I love that album.
So I mean, and again, just not that didn't whack at all, but that's just my least. I think Porsche's out for a second. Easton, who you got last coming up for you?
Right, so this is my number 10 then. In my top 10 rappers of all time, number 10 is a shared spot. Yeah, because I don't think, it's a shared spot. So it's actually shared with Styles P and 50 Cent, all right? But I'm not going to do them both. I'll just run Which styles? I'll just say my favorite is Gangster and Gentleman, and my least favorite is 2018's G-Host. Weren't a fan of that, just didn't like the sound of it. But yeah, props to Styles, man. Same, Mr. Consistent. I don't think he's dropped a bad project. And I love his growth and maturity. That's what you want to see in someone in life, so even more so in music. What I love about Styles is that he's trying to be on his, you know what I mean, his mature, peaceful walk, and he's doing that. But you still know not to test him, though. You can still see in his music that he'll flip, you know what I mean, if he needs to, man. Which is just balance. So Styles, but I want to talk on 50 then. So 50 will be my last one. So 50 will be my number 10. So favorite official album, Get Rich or Die Trying. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but Get Rich or Die Trying. I think it's a monster album. I know some people can be like, it's overrated, but I know the impact it had and the replay value. The whole reason 50 is even in my top 10, to be honest, is because of his replay value for his music. No, he's not the most technical or the best rapper ever, but at the end of the day, hip-hop is music. We know it's a culture and everything, but it's music, you know what I'm saying? And 50's music makes you want to go back and listen to it, man. Just from the way the album starts, What Up Gangsta, it's consistent. I don't think it really loses a step, man. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite from 50. My least favorite would be Curtis 2007. I was actually going to go with Before I Self-Destruct, but there's actually some gems on that, so I'm going to go with Curtis, which is interesting that Curtis is my least favorite because that was around the time when he was having the whole thing with Kanye, you know, about the record sales, and whoever sells more, they'll retire and that. So obviously 50 was saying, you know, he'll outsell Kanye, which was an interesting time because it was when, you know, gangster rap was almost taking a back seat, you know what I'm saying, for the backpack rap or what have you. So everyone was obviously interested in seeing what was going to happen with the sales and everything, and Kanye did outsell 50, but, you know, he didn't retire, he's still doing his thing. But yeah, that album for me, there was too many reaches in there, man. There was a few good tracks on there, Go Off and a couple other good ones, but on the whole, it was a struggle to get through. It felt bloated, and it just felt like 50's formula was running dry, kind of thing. So that would have been my least favorite. But yeah, definitely Get Rich, and then Curtis is my least favorite.
No doubt. Slack, what you got for your last ones?
For my last one, I'm gonna go for the one and only Scarface. Scarface, man, it's very difficult to pick a favorite album from Scarface because that dude has so many quality albums, man. So it was real difficult. So I've got two favorites. I might be cheating slightly because I couldn't pick between these two, but I've got to go with The Diary as one of them, and the second one is The Fix. I just can't pick between those two albums. The production on both of them, Scarface owns those projects as well. He owns every song that he's on, even the tunes he's got with Jay, the tunes he's got with Ice Cube. Like, he owns everything that he's on. The tunes he's got with Nas, he's not outshined by any of these top tier MCs on any of those songs. Diary's got The Hand of the Dead Body, Seen a Man Die, Jesse James, just classic. It's the perfect length, perfect production, just everything about both of those albums, man. So I've got to have both of those tied neck and neck as my favorite Scarface projects. And my least favorite, again, it's not a case of me not liking the album or it being whack, but just one that is cool. It's okay. Was Last of a Dying Breed. It's a good album, but it just hasn't got the replay value of his other stuff. As far as I'm concerned. My Homies as well was just overload, but that's because everyone was doing double albums at the time the Homies came out. And I'm not really sure that I even class that as a Scarface album as well, because he's got so many different people running around and doing stuff. Yeah, so if it comes down to solos, I'll just say Last of a Dying Breed, and that's literally only because it's just one that I play the least out of his discography. But again, I wouldn't say it was a weak album, just not my favorite Scarface album. But for him to have two that I would class as top drawer, top of his line, top of his discography, I think he's earned a place as one of the most top tier of MCs for sure.
Dope. And for my last joint, I'm going with Kendrick Lamar, man. Kendrick cracked my top 10 when he dropped Damn, because Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Damn were just 3 amazing albums to me. I just felt like, yo, this dude, like, and they're 3 totally different albums. He's like the solo Outkast to me. Like, you know, most of the people I know who fuck with Cast have, every time I talk to people, they have different favorite albums. You know what I mean? Because it seems like Cast would lose fans and then gain fans. Because a lot of people I know, like my hood dudes, they stopped messing with Cast after ATLians. You know what I mean? 'Cause it was just like what Dre was talking about on Return to Gangsta. Like, yo, what's wrong with your man? Like, people will be asking me, like, yo, what's wrong with your man?
Is he on drugs?
I don't know him. Yeah. Like, I don't know the nigga, but I don't know. But he's still spitting. Like, yo, he will be on TV with football pads on and wigs. And my people from the hood be like, man, I know people who die-hard hip-hop heads who have never heard of Criminal because they just could not get past, yo, your man look crazy, man. I ain't.
Yeah, bro. I remember that happening. So, I remember that, yeah.
And it seemed like, you know, every time they dropped the album, they would lose fans, but then they would gain more fans. You know, I knew people who, when they heard Bombs Over Baghdad, they was like, yeah, kill, I'm done with them. But then they would gain a whole new group of fans, or Miss Jackson. It would always be like,
yeah, exactly.
Both of those songs were huge in Europe. Huge. Yeah. Bombs Over Baghdad was a monster.
You know, so Kendrick reminds me of kind of like a solo Outkast, you know, to where Good Kid, Mad City sounds nothing like The Pimp a Butterfly, which sounds nothing like Damn, which is one of the reasons I'm so intrigued to hear what he has next. And again, just like with G-Rap, Monch, same thing with Kendrick. It would my favorite would be Good Kid, Mad City. I love concept albums, so just the whole concept of, you know, starting the day off and you just hanging with your homies and, you know, get pulled up into somebody else's hood and, you know, everything like that. I just love the concept album. And then the least would be Damn. You know, because in my opinion, The Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid are both 5 mic albums for me. So Damn is like a 4, but I like it, but it's just like the least favorite. But I definitely am intrigued to see what he's gonna come with next, since this is his last joint on Top Dog. So definitely interested for that. Porsche, who's your last person, sis?
I got MC Lyte. She's on my all-time list, and Lyte as a Rock, I talk about this all the time. That is my absolute favorite album in her discography. It might even be like a top 5 or 10 in all of hip-hop for me. I absolutely love that album. Everything about it. Again, I always talk about Lyte being, you know, this woman who's able to hold her own against all of the male-dominated, not only male-dominated genre, but also in and around her. She's able to kind of rap with the best of them. So for me, and Lyte as a Rock is like your perfect execution of that. If you ever doubt Lyte's ability, that album, and actually her first 3 albums, I would say, are back-to-back, like, stellar albums. So that one's my favorite. And then my least favorite in her discography is, and I don't even know why she did this, but the Underground Heat Volume 1. I don't even know if you guys like listen to it. It's you don't have to. You're not missing anything. I think 2013 or something. I could be wrong. Double check that. It was in the 2000s. Yeah, 2013, 2015, something like that. I'm waiting for you to confirm this.
It is 2003.
Oh, shoot. 2003. I think she had Legend in I Am Legend or I Am a Legend. The volume 1. Yeah. That one, 2003. So she had one after that. Anyways, it's like hosted by Jamie Foxx. It's really weird. She does have some good features on there, but overall, it's a lot of repetition. Like, okay, you're thinking 2003, so 2003 is the release date. She's still kind of rapping about stuff that she was rapping about like back in the early years, you know? And it's sort of like, well, have we, you know, kind of moved on from that? Because she's got albums before this one and they didn't have that feel. So why does this one have that feel? So it kind of was a disappointment, let me down. I didn't like it. Although again, the features are good. There's Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, Biz Marquis on there, Janet Jackson's on there. Like, there's some good good features, but overall, it's a very disappointing project from Lyte. Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I got.
No doubt.
I didn't even know that one.
Yeah, I had no. What's just fooling me because I had no idea the underground.
No, I've never heard of that before.
I really missed out.
You're not missing much. You're not missing much.
All right, Dope Show Easton. Give them everything, good brother. Where can they follow you? Where can they check y'all out at? Everything.
Yes, man. So on Twitter, so that's the only sort of social media I'm on. So Twitter is Easton Major. On there, I do in the spotlight sort of content stuff as well, where we just look at albums, break down things, just have a bit of fun regarding music, man. So follow me on there if you're not already. That's for me personally. I also got a blog as well, in the Spotlight blog. It's all in my bio. Also, just a few blogs on there, just blogging about hip hop artists and things like that. I need to throw some new ones on there. Then obviously we do the Man Knows Hip Hop there, the hip hop podcast that we're doing that we spoke about at the beginning. Just celebrating the hip hop, man. We're just looking at topics, just having fun. Me and Slack chopping it up every week, just having fun, doing what we do on the timeline and off the timeline, just talking about music. So that's on there. Man Knows Hip Hop on Twitter as well. It's got its own page as well. So yeah, you can hit us up on there. Appreciate all the sort of input and feedback and interaction, man. Just makes this journey a lot more fun, man. So yeah, good to be here on Apartment 5B as well, man. So love always from the UK, man.
I ain't no doubt. Slack, give him everything, good brother.
Yeah, man, you can hit me up on Twitter. That's the only social media that I use, at Slack Supremacy, and also at the Man Knows Hip Hop podcast. That's at MKHH podcast. As Easton said, once a week we'll be chopping up about a different topic. We'll also do album reviews on there as well. So yeah, once a week we'll be recording those. We'll have some special guests on as well. So yeah, we're looking to ramp it up this year. And yeah, man, just thank you guys for linking up like Voltron, the UK to the US to Canada, you know. And yeah, man, really enjoyed it, man. Love you guys, and hopefully we can link up again.
Yeah, perfectly, man. Get this on a monthly link up, man.
Yeah, man, I'll be well up for that one. For sure.
Porsche, give him everything. Tell him how much you love Drake.
Yeah, right. Just on Twitter at Cherche La Porsche, and Monday nights at 6:15 Pacific time, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time, we do Apartment 5B on Twitter Spaces. So that'll be tomorrow night. I don't even know when this is going to air, but Monday nights at 6:15, 9:15 Pacific time or Eastern time, and then on Twitter at Cherche La Porsche.
And you already know it is with me, Kill 889, Twitter, IG, we'll make beats for food. I will check y'all on the collab tip next month, y'all.
Yeah, guys.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.